Calling from the 308 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it is Kowalski from Nebraska.
Kowalski from Nebraska. How are you?
Oh, harvest is underway. So I actually kind of prepared a call for today. I've been wanting this since the debate. But first, I did want to just say whoever does your editing for your Instagram Reels and TikTok videos deserves a round of applause. A buddy of mine sent me a Instagram Reel from your guys' channel that featured yours truly talking about Project 2025's agricultural implications. And they did a fantastic job editing that call because they condensed like 7.5 minutes into 100 seconds and added some nice little text graphics to it, which I think really just hit every point I wanted to make. So I wanted to give them just like a huge congratulations from me because it also had about 8 to 10 times the average viewers of your other videos. So, maybe Kowalski is good for the MR brand. Maybe John from San Antonio's permanent call-in slot on Tuesdays is in jeopardy. Who's to say?
Wow,
I'm just kidding, John. We love you.
Kudos to Isaac on those reels. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So a little bit of this will touch on what Ryan Grimm was discussing, but something that I picked up on the debate was J.D. Vance kept referring to we need to reshore our manufacturing and we need to drill, baby, drill. He touched on that I think 7 times in total. And I've spoken about the Build Back Better thing and how that was kind of implemented through, the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. And then I think it was the 2021, Recovery Act or something to that effect. That's the one that I'm not as familiar with. But all combined, if you actually break into the numbers, there was about $400 billion the U.S. government spent in direct financing of new manufacturing in the United States.
We're having a manufacturing explosion in this country. I mean, no.
Well, it's more than just, it's more than that, though, because we've also spent about $800 to $900 billion through incentives in many laws to get the private sector to invest. And then if you really want to dig into the military budget, some of that was also to increase manufacturing. So in total, in the last 3 years, we've seen nearly $1.5 trillion invested into U.S. manufacturing. This is the most in our history since World War II. Over the next decade, we are going to experience a drastic increase in our economic situation. That just enough money has been spent. There's going to be momentum there. We're going to see a lot of people get blue-collar jobs, and this is going to be phenomenal for the American people. And if Trump wins, he will take all the credit for it and say it was because he did trade wars, tariffs, and, attacked minorities in the inner city or whatever. And that is what has me kind of worried because we kind of got gaslit on this once before with Trump. From 2017 to 2020, just prior to the pandemic, wages for the average American did go up, and the economy was doing better. Most of this was predicated on cheaper energy. Energy was cheaper because one of the few things the Obama administration did where direct government investment was into the fracking industry. Now, environmental consequences aside, and they are disastrous, do not get me wrong, that did increase U.S. oil production. And that's what got us cheap energy. That's what saved a lot of people a lot of money and allowed a lot of people to invest in certain parts of our economy. And people saw the benefit from that. That was just straight up Keynesian economic policy, and it worked. And when Trump took office, he got all the credit for it, and it was because of his great negotiating skills somehow and kicking Mexicans out somehow, which he did a worse job than Obama technically. But my big fear on all of this is that I know it's cliche to say that this is the most important election of our lifetime, but I do think this is probably going to be our most important election for at least 12 years.
Yes.
Because if Kamala wins, at the very worst, we're going to have a president who just doesn't really have a political agenda. I think you guys are right. She's a cipher. So best case scenario, she's good with labor unions. Worst case scenario, she just kind of doesn't care. And if she doesn't care, I still think that gives labor unions a really good chance to thrive. And especially with all these blue-collar jobs that will be created from all of this investment, there's a lot of room there for a very solid and powerful labor movement to form. But if Trump gets elected, he's sending in the National Guard if there's a strike.
Yep.
And we know he will because that's the Reagan playbook, which means the economic benefits we would see could have the potential to build a powerful labor movement, which, again, the Democrats, in my opinion, don't really have much of a political ideology. They kind of just migrate to wherever there's power. So if there is a strong labor movement with power, they'll shift towards it. Not because they want to, just because they see it as something that would benefit them. And Republicans aren't the same, at all.
Kowalski, I just want to point out that the UAW and Sean Fain is planning for a general strike in 2028.
That's completely irregardless of who is
of who's the president. So
yep.
In terms of sending in the National Guard on strikers, that is the fear in a second Trump term.
And it's one that I think would definitely happen. And I think people like Vance, or at least Vance's team, understands where our economy is going to be at in the next few years, because they wouldn't keep hammering on Biden's greatest accomplishment as being president if they didn't think that they could, steal it themselves in a way. But then just because of the markets and stuff I follow, and because of your guys' discussion on it earlier, I don't think Harris necessarily cares about corporate interests and stuff like that. I think she sees an opening to nullify the corporate sponsorship of Trump, because right now, a lot of people in especially when it comes to finances and stuff that have to cross international borders, really are nervous about this tariff war stuff. And I think the Democrats think that there's a lot of money they could prevent getting spent against them if they kind of, kowtow to them. Me personally, I think the strategy is terrible, because you're not going to get any ground support from something like that. At the very least, TPUSA is going to get less money. So, in my opinion, it's just because the Democrats don't really seem to have much of a strategy aside from going to wherever they think there's power, and have no interest in building power themselves, because, if they did that, we definitely would not have a Republican representing a 60% blue district in Nebraska.
I think they're doing the same thing with AIPAC. To a certain degree. I think that they're worried about AIPAC flooding money, and they're hearing from all of the members in frontline districts. Don't let AIPAC get into my race. Don't tread water, etc. I mean,
we're actually interviewing Ilan Pappy for Monday, and we're going to be interviewing him later this afternoon. He's written a book about the Israel lobby, and there is a decades upon decades of experience with this. We will talk about that. But Kowalski, thanks for the call.
Yep. Remember, folks, get out there, vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. They're doing weird things at a lot of state levels. So y'all have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.